The invisible seed. The law of cause and effect in this lifetime. Storytelling introduction. There was once a poor man standing in front of a grand villa gate. In his hand was a letter with only one line. I once took 10,000 dong from you. Now, I want to return it, multiplied 1,000 times. When the gate opened, he was stunned to see a woman crying. She was the same hungry schoolgirl to whom he had once given a bowl of noodles. Karma doesn't need to speak. It simply returns quietly, perfectly. In a riverside village, there lived an old man named Ba. He made his living weaving fishing nets. Each morning, long before the sun rose, he would row his little boat across the cold, misty waters to cast his nets. He wasn't wealthy, far from it, but everyone in the village respected him, not for his possessions, but for his kindness. He was known for never turning away a hungry person, no matter how little he had. Once, a neighbor whispered, "He's too soft, gives away everything, ends up with nothing." He simply smiled and replied, "What I give isn't lost, it just changes hands." What people didn't know was that Ba hadn't always been this way. In his younger days, he had been short-tempered, selfish, even cruel. Life's bitterness had hardened his heart, until one rainy night, a beggar he had once rejected pulled him from a river during a flood. That moment changed everything. He sold his last buffalo after the storm and divided the money among flood victims. From that day forward, he chose to live differently. He began sowing good seeds not in soil, but in hearts. In Buddhist teaching, karma, law of cause and effect, is often divided into three forms. Karma, seen in this life. Karma, that carries into the next life. Karma, that stretches across many lifetimes. Of the three, karma in this very life is the most obvious. It's the type we can observe clearly. You insult someone, they are hurt, they withdraw from you. You help someone in need, they remember it, they lift you up later when you're down. These are small seeds. But each day, with every thought and deed, we plant thousands of them, and all seeds, in time, will grow. Not all consequences are immediate. Some seeds need weeks, months, even years, but none are wasted. Like plants, some bloom in spring, others in winter, but bloom they will. Let me tell you the story of Minha, motorbike driver in the city. Every time it rained, he refused to charge extra. When asked why, he said, "Rain already makes people suffer. I won't add to that." People thought he was foolish, until one day, he picked up a young woman whose car had broken down in the storm. He refused her tip. A week later, she contacted him again, not for a ride, but to offer him a job as her family's private driver. Her father ran a successful company. That one rainy day changed Min's entire life. Or consider the woman selling tea outside a school. Her name was Mai. She often let hungry students drink for free, never asking for payment. Years later, a man returned a student from long ago, now a wealthy doctor. He bought her a house and paid her living expenses until her final days. When people asked why, he said, "Without those warm drinks during exam season, I don't think I would have made it." How? In Buddhism, karma isn't just about what we do, it's also about what we say and even what we think. The three layers of karma are: physical karma, what we do with our bodies; verbal karma, what we say to others; mental karma, what we think and feel internally. Even if you don't act or speak, harboring hatred or envy quietly in your mind creates invisible seeds, mental karma. You may not notice it immediately, but it will show. In someone's cold stare, in a missed opportunity, in unexplained loneliness. No act is ever lost, not even a thought. There's a quiet order to the universal rhythm that echoes through every corner of life. In Buddhist teachings, it's called Dhamma, the law of reality. Karma is a part of this reality, like the river's current, the rising of the sun, or the way laughter spreads when hearts are warm. Ba, the old fisherman, came to see this clearly as he aged. One morning, while mending his nets by the riverbank, A young man named Fook approached. He looked troubled. His business had failed, his friends abandoned him, and his father was in the hospital. He asked Ba in desperation, "Why? I've worked hard. I haven't cheated anyone. Why is life so unfair?" Ba didn't answer immediately. He looked out at the water and asked gently, "Do you remember planting rice?" Fook nodded. He grew up in the same village. "Sometimes," Ba said, "we do everything right. We till the soil, we plant, we water, and yet pests come, or the sky forgets to rain. That's life. But do we stop planting?" "No," Fook whispered. Ba smiled. "Good, because life isn't always about instant reward. It's about what we keep putting into the ground. Sometimes we do good and see no return. That doesn't mean karma is broken, it means timing is not yet ripe. In Buddhism, we call it maturing karma. It's like fruit. A mango doesn't appear the day you plant the seed. It needs sun, water, patience, and time. This explains why some people, though kind and honest, still suffer. They're not being punished. They're paying off old debts, old karma from forgotten actions, perhaps from earlier in this very life, or they're being tested before the harvest. There's an old story in the Dhammapada of a woman named Kesha Gomati. Her baby died suddenly, and she refused to accept it. She went from house to house, begging for a cure. Finally, she met the Buddha. He told her, "Bring me a mustard seed from a household that has never suffered death." She went searching, full of hope, but in every house she found the same truth. Grief touches all. No one was exempt. Kesha returned, changed. She understood. Her sorrow softened into wisdom. That is karma too. It's not just the things that happen to us, it's how we transform through them. Pain itself can be fertilizer for deep compassion if we allow it. Let me tell you another story. This one comes from a small cafe in Hanoi. The owner, a woman named Lian, was known for feeding stray cats and never turning away a hungry child. Her cafe barely made enough to survive, but she said she slept peacefully each night. One evening, a foreign man came in during a rainstorm. He spoke little Vietnamese but was clearly cold and tired. Lian served him tea, gave him a warm towel, and refused payment. 3 months later, she received a letter from the city council. A grant had been approved to renovate her cafe and fund a second location. The man she had helped was a writer from France, visiting Vietnam for a book project. He had written about her kindness in an article that went viral. When reporters asked if she felt lucky, she simply said, "No, not lucky, just returning fruit from old seeds." What? Karma in one lifetime isn't always about reward or punishment. It's more subtle. It's the way life bends toward your actions. A kind person attracts gentleness, a cruel one, suspicion. It's not magic, it's resonance. You don't plant bamboo and grow roses, and you don't curse people daily and expect peace in your heart. Even if no one hears you, even if you smile on the outside, the universe listens to your intentio. There is a beautiful quote in an ancient Buddhist text: "Just as a shadow follows the body, so too does karma follow the mind." You can't escape it, not even by fleeing to another place, because karma isn't out there, it's in here. It follows your decisions, your regrets, your joys. It lives in your character. It is not fate, is momentum. And like any momentum, it can be redirected. That's the hope. Not long after Phuoc's visit, Ba received a letter. It came in a dusty envelope, scrawled in uneven handwriting, almost unreadable. Inside was a note and a small photograph. The note read, "I don't know if you remember me. Years ago, I stole fish from your boat while you were away. I was hungry, angry, and ashamed. But you never chased me, never called me out. You simply left extra fish by the riverside the next day, with a rock placed on top, a silent offering. That act saved my life. I'm now working in a fishing cooperative in the south, helping young men like I once was. Your kindness started something in me. Thank you." Ba folded the note with trembling hands. A soft smile came to his face. He never knew who the boy was. He didn't need to. What mattered wasn't the recognition. It was knowing that even the smallest act of quiet goodness goes somewhere. Buddhism teaches us that karma is not always linear. You may plant seeds here and harvest fruit there. You may do good in one corner of the world and the blessing comes from another direction entirely. This is what makes karma both mysterious and magnificent. It isn't controlled by logic, but by the silent weaving of cause and effect, like an invisible tapestry spun from our daily actions. It's not just good deeds bring rewards and bad deeds bring pain. It's who you become as a result of what you do. You may never see the outcomes, but you will become someone lighter, more open, more peaceful, heavier, more resentful, more disconnected, depending on what you choose to plant. There's a story of a man who tended to a Bodhi tree outside his home for 40 years. His neighbors laughed at him, calling it the useless tree. It bore no fruit, gave little shade, and blocked their view. But every morning, he swept the dry leaves around its roots, offered it water, and whispered silent prayers. Then, one year, during a great drought, that tree, tall and old, was the only source of shelter for a mother and her child passing through the region. They rested under it, escaping the sun, and drank from a well the man had quietly dug nearby years earlier. That boy later grew up to become a monk. In his teachings, he often recalled the old man and the Bodhi tree. He would say, "The tree taught me, even in silence you can serve. Even without fruit, you can protect." Karma doesn't require applause, only sincerity. Sometimes people ask, but what about those who do evil and seem to thrive? Rich, powerful, untouched. The Buddha never said karma is immediate. In fact, he explained that some karma ripens slowly, like hard fruit on a high branch. It may take years or lifetimes, but it never disappears. Think of a coal buried under ash. For a while it looks dead, but poke it and it still burns. Some people rise on borrowed time. What they enjoy now may be the good from a past life, early kindness in this one. But if they sow harm today, it will return. The same is true in reverse. A good person may struggle not because they're being punished, but because they're burning off old, forgotten debts. If they stay steady, their horizon will clear. In Ba's village, there was a woman named Diem who used to mock the temple. She believed prayer was useless, monks were beggars, and karma was a trick. She ridiculed anyone who spoke of cause and effect. But years passed. Her son fell into gambling. Her shop closed. Her health declined. It wasn't revenge, it was consequence. One night, desperate and alone, she wandered into the temple's courtyard. Ba was there, sweeping leaves. She whispered, "Why didn't anyone tell me this pain was coming?" Ba didn't scold. He didn't say, "I told you so." He simply looked at her and replied, "Now that it's here, you can begin again. You can plant new seeds." That night, she lit her first incense stick. And for the first time, in her own quiet way, she asked the universe to start over. This is the beauty of karma. It is just, but never cruel. It doesn't bind you to your past. It invites you to reshape your future. Every moment, you're making a choice. Even now, as you listen to these words, the way you react, whether with openness, resistance, peace, or irritation, is itself a seed, one that will echo later, perhaps in ways you won't expect. Morning in the village was always quiet. The river moved slowly. Smoke rose from clay stoves, and the world felt gentle, like it too had decided to be kind. Ba, now older and slower, walked every morning past the old temple gate. He no longer cast nets. His hands had become storytellers, instead telling tales of invisible seeds, unseen roots, and silent transformations. One day, a child stopped him and asked, "Ongoi, how do I know if I'm planting good seeds?" Ba knelt and placed his hand on the child's heart. When your chest feels warm after what you do, it's usually a good seed. But if your stomach twists or your face burns from shame, it's time to look closer. The child nodded, then ran off. Ba stood there, eyes moist. In that moment, he felt it clearly. Karma is not only about the past or future, it's also this exact moment. The choices made in the pause before speaking, the thought allowed to bloom or die before it reaches the tongue. Reflection. You are the gardener. You are planting right now. When you choose patience over anger, you water peace. When you hold your tongue instead of judging, you nourish wisdom. When you give without needing to be seen, you fertilize compassion. These are not metaphors, they are real. The way a single drop of water shapes a stone over centuries, your thoughts and actions shape your character and your future. If you look at your life right now, your relationships, your state of mind, your fortune's not punishment or reward, it's harvest. What's growing is the result of what's been planted. But here's the most hopeful truth. The soil is never closed. You can plant again, today, now, even with hands full of regret. Especially then, the final return. One evening, Ba sat outside as the sky turned gold. He was quiet, content. He had once been angry, once selfish. But now, as the crickets sang and a young boy brought him tea without being asked, he saw clearly. This was his harvest. Not wealth, not fame, but peace, a deep, gentle peace that cannot be bought or faked. It only comes when the invisible seeds blossom within. And so, he smiled not for the world outside, but for the world within. Because he finally understood what the Buddha meant when he said, if you want to know your past, look at your present. If you want to know your future, look at what you're doing now. Echoes of the past. Opening story. The boy was born blind. No medical reason, no genetic history, just darkness. But when monks visited the family home, he reached out and touched one of their robes, saying softly, "This feels familiar." The parents wept. The monk bowed his head in silence. Some things the eyes cannot explain, but karma does. They met at a train station. She dropped her book. He picked it up. Their hands touched for a moment too long. From that day, they were inseparable for 3 years. Then one evening, with no anger, no drama, she simply said, "I don't know why, but I feel like I've finished what I came for." And she left. He never saw her again. Some people enter our lives not to stay, but to complete something ancient. According to the law of karma between lifetimes, every soul carries unfinished stories, what the Buddha called karmic debts and affinities. Some souls return to repay kindness, offer healing, teach a lesson, or receive a long overdue apology. These are karmic contracts not written in ink, but in energy. Have you ever felt instantly connected to someone you just met? Or strangely repelled by someone with no explanation? It may not be chemistry, it may be karma remembering. There's an old tale from northern Vietnam. A young man named Dung kept dreaming of a woman crying by a river. In the dreams, she whispered his name in a language he didn't know. One day, during a visit to an old temple, he walked past a faded painting and froze. The woman in the artwork was Hertha, one from his dreams. A monk told him, "She died here 100 years ago. Her lover drowned during a storm. Some say she waited at the river until her last breath." Dad. That night, Dung returned to the riverbank in silence. He lit incense. He whispered, "I'm sorry I couldn't come back." And just like that, the dreams stopped. Some souls only find rest when the story is heard, even if a century late. When debts are invisible, karma doesn't always return as event. Sometimes it returns as emotion. You feel unexplainable guilt. You're deeply afraid of abandonment, even in stable relationships. You sabotage success as if afraid of light. These may be signs that you are carrying invisible karma from a past life or early moment you don't remember. But here is the hope. Awareness dissolves chains. You don't need to know the full story. You only need to respond differently now. If you feel guilt, practice forgiveness. If you fear loss, love without holding. If you doubt yourself, choose action anyway. That is how new karma begins, by interrupting the old with conscious presence. The Buddha and the Golden Bowl. There is a beautiful story from the Jataka tales, the Buddha's past lives. In a previous life, the Bodhisattva was born as a merchant. He was wealthy but stingy. One day, he refused to give water to a thirsty monk, choosing instead to walk past with pride. Lifetimes later, as the Buddha, he received a golden bowl of food from a king. But before he could eat, the bowl fell and shattered. The monks were shocked. Why would such a blessing be broken? The Buddha smiled and said, "Even golden bowls cannot hold karma that has not been cleansed." This story reminds us, we carry everything forward until it is purified through awareness, compassion, and action. No blessing lasts without wisdom. No curse endures if the mind awakens. The power of a single change. Even one act in this life can alter karma from a past one. A thief who becomes a teacher. A violent man who builds shelters for the homeless. A liar who chooses truth, even when it hurts. These are not miracles, they are turnings of the wheel. If past karma planted shadows, you still have the candle. If your hands once harmed, they can now heal. Karma is powerful, but your will is divine. Peace with the unknown. You may never remember your past life. You may never know why you fear water, why your father seems distant, or why love feels harder than it should. But understanding why is not always the point. Living with awareness is, you don't need full memories to live skillfully. You only need to ask, what does this pain teach me? What would compassion do in this moment? Can I respond with peace even if I don't understand the cause? That is how karma softens, not through knowledge alone, but through presence. The Buddha never taught us to chase past lives for curiosity's sake. He taught us to observe this moment with stillness, because the present is where all timelines converge. Imagine a pot of water placed over a flame. The water starts to boil not because of one spark, but many. Each flame represents a life, an action, a choice, but the boiling, the awakening happens now. You are that pot. You are the boiling, planting for the next life. If you accept that this life is shaped by the past, then it follows. Your next life will be shaped by what you do now. This is not superstition, it is continuation. You cannot take your house, your wealth, or your titles with you, but you will carry your habits, your emotions, your unresolved karma, your intentions. Every time you choose truth over lies, generosity over greed, kindness over pride, you are building the character that will walk into the next life. That is why monks practice mindfulness with each step, why they chant with devotion, why they speak slowly. They are sculpting their next birth, and so are you. You are the seed and the gardener. In the end, karma is not a prison. It's not chains from the past. It is soil. What you plant, how you water it, how you care for your thoughts and actions, that is your freedom. You are both seed and gardener. You are both story and storyteller. So if your life today feels heavy, do not fear. You have inherited old weather, but the sky still listens. Breathe. Forgive what you cannot see, and begin again with your next breath. The net never forgets. Opening scene. He had never seen that woman before, but the moment their eyes met across the crowded street in Kyoto, something cracked inside him. A flood of tears rose not from his mind, but from somewhere far deeper. He didn't know her name, but his soul whispered, "There you are. I've waited for lifetimes." The cosmic net. In Buddhist philosophy, karma isn't just a series of causes and effects, it is a net, a vast, invisible web where everything is connected. Each action you've ever taken, each word you've ever said, each thought you've ever allowed to linger, is a thread in that net, and the net doesn't forget. Some threads quiver instantly like the sting of a harsh word. Others lie still for centuries, waiting for the wind of time to stir them. But all of them, eventually, return. This is karma, across many lifetimes, the ancient echo of what was once thought, spoken, or done, now returning, not as punishment, but as unfinished business. The fire that returned. There's an old story passed down in Thai monasteries. A man named Arun suffered from strange recurring nightmares, being burned alive, chased through temples, and locked inside a stupa with no door. Doctors called it trauma, but Arun had never experienced fire, not even a minor burn. Eventually, desperate, he visited a forest monk. The monk said nothing at first, just asked Arun to meditate by the fire each night. Weeks passed. One night, during deep stillness, Arun saw it. He was once a temple arsonist in a war-torn kingdom. Out of rage and grief, he had burned down a sacred library, trapping innocent monks inside. They had screamed his name, and now, lifetimes later, he still heard their voices in his sleep. Tears flooded his face. He fell to the monk's feet, whispering, "How do I repay what I did?" The monk answered, "By rebuilding the temple, this time with love." Arun later dedicated his life to restoring ancient monasteries, not out of guilt but as a way to plant new seeds. In the soil where fire once lived, you carry more than you remember. Do you ever feel an irrational fear of drowning or of heights? Do certain cultures, languages, or places feel strangely familiar? Do you sometimes dream of events you've never lived? This is the residue of old karma, ancient memories that live in the body, the subtle mind, the soul. You may not recall the story, but the emotion lingers. The past is not behind you, it is within you. And every encounter, every trigger, every inexplicable love or pain may be the blooming of a seed that was planted lifetimes ago. When souls return, there was a girl named Lynn. From the age of 5, she would cry uncontrollably whenever she passed the old pagoda by the lake. Her parents didn't understand. She had never been there before. No one in the family followed Buddhism. But Lynn would whisper in her sleep, "The candle's still lit. I forgot to bow. I forgot to come back." At age 9, she insisted on becoming vegetarian. At 10, she asked to learn Pali chant, something she had never heard spoken in her life. Her parents, shaken, brought her to a monk. He listened quietly, then smiled with calm certainty. She remembers her vow. The robe is no longer on her body, but it still rests in her heart. In many Buddhist traditions, recognition beyond lifetimes is not strange, it is sacred. We don't always meet the same people again, but sometimes we do, because a bond was left incomplete, because forgiveness was unfinished, or because love still had work to do. These moments often feel like immediate familiarity, even with strangers. A strange pull towards someone or someplace, sudden emotions that feel older than you. These are not coincidences. They are ripples from old thread, tugging gently on the net of karma. Karma is not fate. Many confuse karma with fate, but they are not the same. Fate says, you have no choice. Karma says, your past has momentum, but your response still matters. Imagine a river flowing fast from a mountain. You cannot stop its origin, but you can build a dam. You can change its direction. You can choose what it waters or floods. Karma gives you the raw materials, but your awareness is the sculptor. So yes, you may carry the karma of greed, anger, fear, or sorrow from lifetimes past. But each time you pause, breathe, and choose a different response, you are interrupting the cycle. You are planting something ancient and sacred. A new future. When you become the healer. There was a man in northern India who always found himself abandoned in relationships. Every time he opened his heart, people left. Friends disappeared. Lovers grew distant. He began to think he was cursed. Until one day, during a silent retreat, he had a vision. He saw himself in a past life as a proud ruler who banished those who loved him. The most believing love was weakness. He wept. When he returned to the present, something changed. He no longer chased affection. Instead, he gave it with no demand. He became a counselor. He built homes for orphans. He learned to love in silence, not to fill a void but to repay a debt. And over time, the right people stayed. This is the mystery of deep karma. When you stop asking, why me, and start asking, how can I serve? The net begins to loosen. The cords soften. You become the healer of your own line. The sleeping seeds. Not all karma blooms in one lifetime. Some seeds lie quiet, waiting for the right season, the right rain. There are lives where you feel nothing too heavy. No trauma, no strange flashbacks, just stillness. But don't be fooled. Stillness does not mean emptiness. It means pause, like a seed waiting beneath the frost. And then, one day, you meet someone, enter a place, touch an object, and a sudden weight arises in your heart. You don't know why, but your hands tremble. You feel something open and something ache. That's karma stirring. It is not punishment. It is invitation. You are being asked to remember, not for guilt, but for clarity. Seeing past lives through stillness. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a powerful practice called vipassana insight meditation. When practiced deeply, with silence and surrender, some monks begin to remember past lives not through visions, but through understanding patterns. They notice the same kinds of fears appearing again, the same types of attachments repeating, the same emotions returning in cycles. By observing without clinging, the mind becomes clear like water. And then, the stories at the bottom of the stream become visible. Some remember acts of cruelty, some remember deep compassion, but all remember choice and how choice ripples through time. This is why meditation matters. It is not to escape life, but to see it fully across lifetimes. After all this talk of ancient karma, you might ask, am I just a puppet of my past? The answer, in Buddhism, is gently powerful. You are the result of your past, but you are also the author of what comes next. The net remembers, yes, but the net also releases those who walk it with mindfulness. Each breath you take with compassion unties a thread. Each act of truth clears a layer. Each moment of still awareness burns through lifetimes of fog. You do not need to fix your past. You need to live your present so deeply that your future no longer echoes your sorrow. That is freedom. Final reflection. One evening, a novice monk asked his teacher, "Master, how do I escape my karma?" The old monk smiled and replied, "Don't escape it. Embrace it, bow to it, learn from it. Then choose differently." That's it. Not grand rituals, not ancient scrolls. Just one choice, made with clarity. The net never forgets, but the net also never binds those who walk it awake. Light in the dark, she smiled every day, kind to everyone, generous with her words. But at night, when the lights went out, she sat in silence, drowning in thoughts of unworthiness. She hated herself in ways no one could see, and slowly, her life mirrored that hate, not from the outside, but from the inside out. No one had cursed her. She had simply believed the wrong things, and those beliefs had become her karma. When thoughts become habit, habit becomes destiny. The Buddha once said, "With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow like the cart behind the ox. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow like a shadow that never leaves." It starts small. A passing judgment, a moment of jealousy, a silent wish to see someone fail. You don't act on it, you don't say it out loud, but you allow it to stay. It comes again the next day, and again, until it no longer knocks, it walks right in. This is how mental karma becomes a habit, and habits shape your entire life. How you perceive people, how you treat yourself, what decisions you make in the quiet moments. You are never just thinking. You are laying bricks for your future self to walk upon. The power of silent prayer. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman in Hui named Anne. Her husband betrayed her, ran off with another woman, left her with nothing but debt and shame. Everyone told her to curse him, to seek revenge, to fight for justice. But Anne did something strange. Each morning, before dawn, she lit incense and whispered, "May he find peace. May his greed melt into clarity. May I never carry his darkness in my heart. She did this not once, not for a week, but for 3 years. People called her foolish. But in truth, she was planting the highest karma, release. One day, the man returned ill, broken, begging for forgiveness. She did not take him back, but she did not hate him. She smiled and said, "I already forgave you, years ago. You just weren't ready to know it," and lived the rest of her life in quiet contentment. And strangely, everything began to come to her: work, support, respect without effort. Not because she chased it, but because her mind had become a garden, not a battlefield. Healing through attention. In mindfulness practice, we don't try to kill negative thoughts. We simply watch them. Why? Because what you observe loses its grip. If you sit and notice, jealousy is here, fear is rising, I'm craving approval, you no longer become those thoughts, you become the witness, and that witness is free. This is how karma is softened, not by control, but by clarity. When you stop fueling the thought, it withers. When you give it space, it dissolves. And what remains? Stillness, compassion, choice, the silent choice. So what karma are you creating right now? If you're listening with curiosity, you're planting openness. If you're judging this message, you're reinforcing doubt. If you're feeling gratitude, you're inviting joy. You are not just a passenger on the karmic train. You are the conductor. Your mind is not an accident. It is a garden awaiting your hands. Plant what you wish to live, and tend to it daily, especially when no one is watching. Because the universe always is. Watering the mind with kindness. Each day, your mind awakens like a field. What you do in the first hour is like the first rainfall. If you wake with anger, you've watered weeds. If you wake with gratitude, you've watered blossoms. The Buddha encouraged us to begin each morning with metta bhavana, the cultivation of loving kindness. Even just 3 minutes of silently wishing well to yourself and others creates deep shifts in karma. Try whispering, "May I be free from suffering. May I be peaceful. May all beings, even those I fear or dislike, find freedom." This is not weakness. This is training your inner world so that your outer life grows from clean soil. Gratitude, the soil of good karma. There's a secret in karma that even some long-time practitioners overlook. Nothing purifies the heart like gratitude. Gratitude dissolves envie. Gratitude soothes fear. Gratitude shifts the mind from not enough to already full. You don't need to be rich to be grateful. You don't need a perfect life. You only need to notice the breath still in your lungs, the friend who checks in, the sun that rose again today. When you live in thanks, life begins to respond in kind. You stop creating karma from scarcity and start generating karma from trust. Evening practice, cleaning the mind. Before sleep, sit quietly, even for 5 minutes. Close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out. Then ask yourself, what did I think today? What did I feed? What did I let be? Don't judge, just observe. If you find hatred, say, "I see you, you are not me." If you find compassion, say, "Grow here, stay." If you find regret, say, "I forgive this, I will plant better tomorrow." This is how the karma of thought is cleaned. Not with fear, not with guilt, but with loving awareness. Every night, you return to the garden of your mind. Every morning, you water it again. This is the quiet revolution that changes lives from the inside out. Final reflection, light in the dark. You are not your worst thought. You are not the mistakes you made in silence. You are the one who sees, the one who chooses. And choice is more powerful than memory. So even if your mind feels dark, dense, or broken, light is already there, waiting. Every loving thought is a candle. Every kind intention is a sunrise. You don't need the whole sky to be clear. You only need to begin with one light. And in time, Even the deepest karma bows to compassion, reaping the storm. He was once feared by everyone in the village. A loan shark, a violent man, a name that made others lower their eyes. He lived in a mansion, drove black cars, ate at golden tables. But in the final months of his life, no one came to visit. His body twisted in pain, paralyzed. His wealth couldn't soothe the nightmares. And each night, he whispered to himself, over and over, "Why is it all coming back to me now?" The harvest comes. The Buddha taught, whatever seed is sown, that is the fruit one shall reap. The doer of good will harvest good. The doer of evil will harvest evil. No one can escape the law. In this life, we may outrun the police. We may escape judgment. We may silence our guilt. But karma is patient. It does not forget. It waits not with anger, but with perfect memory. And when the conditions are ripe, storm returns, not as revenge, but as a mirror. It shows us what we refuse to see. The man who mocked kindness. There once was a man in Da Nang who ridiculed monks. He said they were parasites, called prayer a scam, laughed at those who spoke of cause and effect. He built his fortune through manipulation, blackmail, and corruption. He smiled when others fell. He believed karma was for the weak. Then his daughter fell sick mysteriously, incurably. He took her to hospitals, temples. Abroad nothing worked. One night, in desperation, he returned to the same pagoda he once mocked. He knelt in silence before the Buddha, whispering, "If this is the fruit of my pride, please, let me carry it instead." That night, for the first time in years, he wept without blame. And strangely, from that moment, her illness began to ease. It didn't vanish overnight, but he changed. He gave away his fortune. He spent his days in charity work, and he never mocked faith again. The storm had passed, not because karma was avoided, but because he finally learned from it, signs that karma is ripe. Karma doesn't only arrive through dramatic tragedies. Sometimes it shows itself more quietly. A repeating pattern of failure, no matter how hard you try. Sudden betrayal from someone you trust deeply. A deep fear or pain with no clear source. A loss that feels heavier than it should. These are not punishments. They are returns from actions once taken, words once spoken, intentions once left unchecked. When karma ripens, it brings 3 invitations. See it, recognize that this may be the fruit of past harm. Feel it, without blame, without running. Transform it by choosing a new path. The storm may come, but it also clears the sky. Facing dark karma without fear. Many people, upon learning about karma, become afraid. What if I've done terrible things? What if I don't remember? Will I suffer forever? But fear is not the goal of understanding karma. Karma is not a trap. It is a system of cause and effect designed to lead you back to clarity. Even the darkest seed, when met with courage, humility, and compassion, can stop bearing fruit. How? Because karma is not eternal. It depends on conditions to ripen. And when you meet it with new insight, you cut the root of its power. What empowers karma most is your denial of it. What dissolves it fastest is your acceptance of it. The boy who set the fire. There was a teenager in Bindung named Nam, known for being violent, rebellious, and dangerous. At 17, in a fit of rage, he set fire to a teacher's motorcycle. He was arrested, sent to a detention center, and left to rot. Everyone gave up on him except for one elderly monk who visited the center each month. The monk never preached. He just sat near Nam and said, "You are more than the worst thing you've done." Nam spat at him the first time, ignored him the second. But by the 5th visit, Nam asked, "Why do you come back?" The monk smiled, "Because someone once waited for me too." Years passed. Nam was released. He moved to the mountains and helped the same monk build a small center for troubled youth. One day, he whispered, "I can't erase what I did, but maybe I can light fires that warm now, not destroy." This is karma transformed, the storm that cleanses. Think of karma like a thunderstorm. When the skies open up, yes, it is loud. Yes, it is frightening. Yes, it can ruin things. But it also washes the air. It soaks the soil. It prepares the ground for something new. Your past mistakes may bring difficulty, but if you meet them with awareness, each wave of suffering becomes an act of cleansing. That is why the Buddha never said, "Avoid suffering." He said, "Understand it, learn from it, and then let it go." 1. Meditation to soften old karma. Every evening, when the day is done and your thoughts are quiet, try this simple practice. Sit in stillness. Let the body settle. Bring to mind one harm you may have done, something you regret, even from long ago. Without shame, whisper inwardly, "I see this. I accept this. I offer it into the fire of awareness." Imagine that harm turning into light, being carried away with your breath. Then, make a vow. "May I live tomorrow with greater kindness." Repeat this for 21 days. Karma doesn't vanish in one night, but it begins to soften like ice touched by sunlight. One good deed can break a cycle. Many people ask, "If I've done so much wrong, is there still hope?" And the answer echoed across sutras, monks, and lifetimes is, yes, 1,000 times yes. Why? Because karma is dynamic, not fixed. Every wholesome thought, word, or deed alters your karmic momentum. You may be carrying the weight of the past, but with one act of genuine compassion, you begin to carve a new path through the jungle. The man and the monk he hated. In a remote province of Laos, there lived a man who hated monks. One day, he was forced by his employer to deliver rice to a local monastery. Furious and cursing, he dropped the sack near the gate, refusing to enter. An old monk came out, bowed deeply, and said, "Though your hands throw it in anger, the rice still feeds the hungry." Something in that line broke the man's armor. He began returning every week, not to serve, but to listen. Years later, he ordained as a monk himself. He used to say, "I entered the temple to prove karma was fake. I stayed because I realized I had the power to change it." A simple prayer for forgiveness. As we close this chapter, try reading or speaking this slowly. Let it be a soft prayer for yourself and for all those you may have harmed, knowingly or unknowingly. "I acknowledge the pain I've caused, in thought, in word, in deed across this life and lives before. I no longer run from it. I face it with an open heart. May my sorrow transform into action. May my regret give rise to gentleness. May those I've hurt find healing, and may I become a vessel of peace within and beyond myself." Final reflection, the eye of the storm. Every storm has a center. In the eye of the hurricane, there is stillness, and that stillness lives in you. Even when karma returns with wind and fire, you can sit in that eye, breathe, and say, "I accept this. I will not repeat this. I choose peace now." And from that choice, the storm becomes your teacher, your guide, and finally, your past. The root of compassion, opening moment. She used to spit on the steps of the temple, mocked the monks, laughed at those who bowed. But when her son fell into addiction and no one would help, it was the temple that took him in. Years later, she became the one sweeping those same steps. Someone asked her why. She said, "Because the thing I hated most turned out to be the only thing that didn't hate me back." Compassion is a karma too. In many minds, karma only means consequence. But in truth, karma is also the seed. And one of the most powerful seeds you can plant is compassion. When you choose to forgive instead of retaliate, to give instead of take, to listen instead of accuse, you are changing the future in that moment. You are saying to the universe, "This ends with me. The cycle of harm, pain, blame, I will not pass it on." End. The story of a woman who fed her enemies. In an old village in Cambodia, there was a woman named Dara. During a time of civil conflict, Her family was robbed and beaten by a group of raiders. Her father died from the wounds. For years, she lived in grief and rage. One day, news spread that 3 of those men, old and ill, were homeless and starving near the edge of town. Everyone said, "Leave them, let karma handle them." But Dara did something no one expected. She brought them food. Every day, when asked why, she said, "If I feed their pain with more pain, it will never end. If I feed their bodies, perhaps their souls will remember they are still human." 2 of those men died quietly. One returned to the temple and ordained in silence. The science of merit. In Buddhist teachings, compassion is not just emotion, it is action, and that action generates merit. Merit is a kind of positive energy, a karmic credit that shields you from misfortune, soothes old karma, attracts gentle circumstances and people, builds the causes for higher rebirth or liberation. But here's the key. Merit is greatest when done with a clean heart, no pride, no expectation, no "I helped you, so you owe me." It is compassion for its own sake. As the Dhammapada says, the scent of virtue travels against the wind. Even the smallest good deed, done quietly, can echo across lifetimes. Small acts, great ripple. One of the greatest misunderstandings about karma is this, that you must do something grand to make a difference. But in the eyes of karma, scale means little. What matters is the sincerity behind the act. A single bowl of rice, a seat offered on the bus, a kind reply to a rude person, these all carry the weight of transformation. Why? Because they interrupt the chain of reaction. The world often functions like this. Someone hurts you, you hurt back, they hurt worse. It spreads. But compassion is the knife that cuts that chain. It says, "No more. This pain will not continue through me." That is heroism. Quiet, ordinary, holy. When love dissolves violence. In a rural district of Sri Lanka, there was a man who had served years in prison for murder. He had killed during a drunken fight in his youth. After being released, he wandered from village to village, rejected by all, until he came to a small forest monastery. He sat outside for days, waiting. When the abbot finally approached, the man fell to his knees. "I have nothing but blood on my hands. I only want to die clean." The abbot said nothing. He simply pointed to a bucket of water and handed him a rag. "Then begin by cleaning this floor. As you scrub it clean, clean your mind too." The man stayed. For years, he became silent, gentle, kind. One day, he was asked, "Don't you ever feel you're too far gone?" He smiled. "Maybe I was, but love didn't agree." Returning compassion to yourself. So far, we've spoken of giving compassion to others. But what about yourself? You cannot offer true compassion outward if inside your voice is cruel. If you beat yourself up over every mistake, if you hold shame from the past like a stone, if you tell yourself you are unworthy of peace, then you are planting seeds of pain, even in silence. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is clean water for the roots. Try speaking inwardly each night. "I forgive myself for what I did when I didn't know better. I release what I cannot fix. I promise to be gentle tomorrow." These words are karma in bloom. Practice, dedicating merit. Whenever you do something good, no matter how small, end it with this: "May any merit from this action flow outward to all beings. May it ease their suffering. May it awaken their joy." Hoi Hung means sending the goodness onward. It makes your act even more powerful because it is not just for you, it becomes universal. A story of mercy and release. In northern Thailand, there was once a hunter named Bonus. He had hunted elephants, tigers, even monks' guard dogs. For decades, he lived by the gun and the knife. No remorse, no hesitation, but after an accident that left him bedridden, he began having nightmares of animals crying, of eyes staring at him in silence. One day, a monk came to his door. Thought the monk would scold him, curse him, shame him. But the monk only said, Do you want to end your suffering? Bonas nodit, the monk whispered. Then begin to bless those you once harmed. End. From that day on, Bonas chanted every morning, May the souls of all beings I ever hurt find peace. May I repay this life by protecting life. Before he died, he asked to have his name removed from his family records and replaced only with the one who guards the forest. Compassion didn't erase his past, but it rewrote his ending. Why compassion is the root. In Buddhism, all paramitas, perfections, generosity, patience, morality, diligence, meditation, and wisdom are rooted in compassion. Compassion is not an emotion, it is a choice, repeated over and over, even when it's difficult. It doesn't mean tolerating abuse. It doesn't mean pleasing everyone. It means seeing clearly, loving fiercely, acting without harming. Compassion does not look away. It embraces, it transforms, and it liberates first the one who gives it, then the one who receives. As the Buddha said, hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is an eternal law, a final whisper. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine someone you once hurt, or someone who once hurt you. Now imagine them as a child, fragile, afraid, uncertain. Can you offer them just one breath of kindness? Can you say, May you be well, may you be free, may I no longer carry this in my heart? On what? If yes, then you have just changed your karma, right here, right now. Final reflection, the root, the path, the bloom. All the teachings, all the sutras, all the temples point to one root, compassion, not as an idea, as a way of being. When you walk with compassion, you stop adding harm to the world. You repair the threads you once broke. You plant seeds you may never see bloom, but others will rest under their shade. This is how karma becomes a garden. This is how suffering becomes freedom. This is how you walk home to yourself. The word and its echo. Opening scene. He was only 9 when he shouted at his grandmother, Why don't you just die already? She stood there, silent. No tears, no scolding. 10 years later, she passed. And for the next 20 years, every time he raised his voice at anyone, he felt that same chill in his bones. He once told a monk, I've never hit anyone, but my mouth has caused more pain than any fist ever could. The sharp edge of speech. In Buddhist teachings, karma is born not only through action, but through speech. Words are sound made from intention, and intention, once spoken, becomes a force. It can comfort or crush, liberate or bind, heal or haunt. A harsh word may last only 2 seconds, but its echo can live inside someone for decades. As the Buddha said, speak only the speech that does not cause remorse and does not hurt others. That is the true speech. I know 4 types of wrong speech. In the Noble Eightfold Path, right speech is one of the central practices. The Buddha identified 4 kinds of unwholesome speech that create heavy karma. 1. Lying, distorting reality to benefit oneself. 2. Divisive speech, gossip that separates people. 3. Harsh speech, cruel, angry, or violent language. 4. Idle chatter, speaking without purpose, feeding ego or delusion. Each of these may seem small, but karma, like fire, often begins from a spark. A lie told today may cost someone their future. A rumor may shatter a family. A cruel comment might push someone into despair. And that karma returns, sometimes quietly, in mistrust, in isolation, in the feeling that no one really hears you anymore, because the energy you send out shapes the field you live in. When words become blessings, but just as words can harm, they can also heal. A sincere apology, a word of encouragement, a chant whispered with devotion, a lullaby sung to a crying child. All of these are offerings to the universe. They generate merit. They soften the pain of others, and they leave behind a trail of light, sometimes across generations. A kind word said to a stranger on the street may be the one thing that stops them from ending their life. You may forget it, but their soul won't. Stories of words that wound. Hadin, the girl and the joke. In Hanoi, a teenage girl was mocked by her classmates every day. They called her ugly, stupid, pig-face, all said as a joke. She laughed with them, pretending not to care. But one day, she climbed to the roof of the school. They never laughed again. Later, a teacher found her diary. One line stood out. They told me it was just words. But their words are the wounds I bleed from. And the karma of speech is not just in what you meant, but in what was received. When you joke at someone's expense, you're betting that they're stronger than your cruelty. And that's a debt, a karmic one. The monk and the silent apology. In contrast, a monk once visited a prison to teach mindfulness. One inmate refused to join. He had never spoken since the day he killed a man in a bar fight. The monk didn't pressure him. For months, he just sat silently across from the man during visits. One day, the inmate finally whispered, "I didn't mean to kill him. I just meant to win the argument." And then he cried. The monk replied, "Then begin by saying words that heal, not win." That man spent the rest of his sentence writing letters not of defense, but of sincere apology to families of his victims, to his own family, and even to strangers. Years later, he became a teacher of non-violent communication inside the very same prison. That's the echo of repentance, and the redemption that can come from one changed voice, the power of mindful silence. Sometimes, the most skillful thing you can say is nothing. Silence is not weakness. It is a space of choice. In meditation, monks often practice noble silencia, full day, or many days, of not speaking at all. Why? Because in silence, you observe the urge to speak from ego. You notice how much speech is habitual, not necessary. You start to value intentional words, not just noise. A good practice you can try. 3 gates before speaking. Practice. Before saying anything, ask, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If the answer is no to any one of these, let the words return to your breath. Let them dissolve. This is how we speak less, but say more. A prayer for clean speech. At the end of each day, before sleep, you can repeat silently, "May my words today have lifted, not pushed down. May I unsay with intention what I cannot with sound. May I speak less and listen more. May my voice serve the truth, the gentle, and the good, the blessing that never dies." In a remote village in Nepal, there was a young man who wanted to leave home to seek fortune. Before he left, his elderly mother gave him a small cloth pouch. Inside it, nothing. He frowned. "What is this for?" She said, "It holds the words I whispered for you every morning since you were born. Be safe, be kind, be strong, and come home clean." He carried that pouch everywhere, even after becoming rich. When asked why, he said, "It reminds me that someone's words once made me believe I was worth loving. That's what saved me." Blessings, real blessings, aren't superstition. They are energy launched into the world with love. They travel through space, through time, through karma, creating positive speech karma. If harmful words can destroy peace, then loving words can generate it. You can create good karma through speech by offering genuine compliments, praying sincerely for others' well-being, chanting mantras or sacred verses, speaking truth even when it's hard, sharing wisdom without pride, speaking less but always with care. Every word with good intent is a seed, and someday, somewhere, someone will rest under its shade. A mantra to plant verbal merit. Here's a short chant you can say every morning. Today, may my words build, not break, bless, not bruise, calm, not provoke, heal, not harm. Or if you prefer in Pali, may all beings be happy. Saying this even once plants a vibration in your field. Say it daily, and you are weaving kindness into your voice. One day, when you need it most, that kindness will echo back. Final reflection. Your voice is your legacy. At the end of this life, your money will stay, your clothes will fade, your body will return to the dust, but your words, they will remain in memories, in wounds, in wisdoms, in prayers. So speak as if your voice is a bridge, not a blade, a balm, not a branding iron, a lantern, not a flame. Speak like someone who knows. My words are not just sound, they are my karma, and they are my gift. The path of returning, opening moment. He hadn't spoken to his mother in 17 years, not since the fight that ended in a slammed door and shattered dishes. Then one morning, while brushing his teeth, he heard a single thought. You don't have forever. That day, he took a bus to her town. He didn't bring flowers. He didn't rehearse a speech. He just stood in front of her door and said, "Convejo, ems," and she wept. Not because she forgave him, but because he had finally forgiven himself enough to return. When you know you've done wrong, there comes a moment, sometimes quietly, sometimes like lightning when you feel it. I shouldn't have said that. I hurt them. I betrayed myself. That feeling is not your punishment. It's your awakening. In Buddhism, this moment is the birth of hiri, sense of shame, and ottappa, fear of wrongdoing, the two guardians of the world. They are not guilt. They are your inner compass spinning back toward the truth. The moment you say, "I see it, I admit it," is the moment you stop digging deeper into karma and start climbing out. The power of acknowledgement. Many people try to escape karma by avoiding the memory, justifying the mistake, blaming someone else, distracting themselves with noise. But what truly begins to heal karma is acknowledging it. It may sound small, but saying out loud, "I was wrong," and is like opening a locked door in the heart. Until then, your karma rules from the shadows. Once admitted, it becomes clay, and you, the sculptor. A story of sincere repentance. There was a businessman in Ho Chi Minh City who built his empire through fraud. For years, he lived in luxury until a scandal broke. He lost everything: money, family, health. In a moment of despair, he wandered into a small temple. A young novice approached, offering tea. The man said, "If you knew who I was, you wouldn't serve me." The novice bowed and replied, "If you knew who you still can become, you wouldn't speak that way about yourself." That day, the man began sweeping temple floors. No one asked him to, he just did. Years later, he funded scholarships for students he once would have exploited. And in his final days he said, "The best part of my life was after I lost everything, because that's when I learned to return." The 3 steps of true repentance. In Buddhism, repentance samhoi is not simply saying, "I'm sorry." It is a process of awakening, purification, and redirection built on 3 essential steps. Recognizing the wrongdoing, seeing the truth clearly. You cannot heal what you still deny. The first step is to see your own mistakes with honesty, without excuses, without blame. Maybe you once spoke words that deeply hurt someone, betrayed someone's trust, harmed yourself through ignorance or addiction. Only when you face it fully does karma begin to stop expanding. Feeling true remorse, letting the heart soften. This is not about saying, "I'm a bad person." It's about whispering to yourself, "I didn't know better. Now I wish to become better." Remorse is not self-hatred. It's the softening of the heart, like soil after the rain, ready to receive a new seed, vowing not to repeat, planting the path forward. This is how karma is interrupted. You may not erase the past, but you can change the direction of the future. Every time you are tempted to repeat the same mistake and choose a wiser response, you are breaking a karmic chain, and every break matters. A real story of redemption. In Bien Hoa, a man named Hai once ran an illegal gambling network. Hundreds of families lost their homes because of his operation, including his own uncle. One night, After being attacked and left unconscious, Hai woke up in a hospital. His only visitor, his uncle. No scolding, no bitterness, just a warm container of rice porridge and a soft whisper. "You are not your worst mistake." Hai cried like a child. Years later, he used his wealth to build a shelter for former gamblers. He created job programs and therapy sessions. He became a man of quiet service. He said, "I used to be the storm, now I want to be the roof." That is true repentance. Not just a feeling, but a transformation in action. Evening meditation, the inner return. Each night before sleep, sit quietly. Let your breath slow down. Ask yourself gently, did I hurt anyone today by words, thoughts, or silence? Where did I forget my own values? What can I do better tomorrow? Visualize a soft golden light in the center of your chest. With each breath, let that light grow. Then say silently, "I forgive what I could not do. I bless those I may have harmed. I vow to walk more mindfully." Let this be your nightly ritual. One drop of awareness each night cleanses the river of karma. Why true repentance breaks even heavy karma. Many people fear their past. They believe some mistakes are too heavy to heal, that some words cannot be unsaid, that some damage is permanent. But the Buddha taught, just as a great river can wash away blood spilled on the land, so too can sincere effort wash away past misdeeds. Karma is strong, but intention, when pure, is stronger. When you repent not out of fear, but out of clarity and compassion, you change the inner current of your soul. That shift in direction creates ripples in your mind, your actions, your future. Even if no one sees it, even if the world never forgives you, the Dhamma sees, the universe responds, blessing your past self. As you continue walking the path of returning, you may still feel regret. That is normal. But don't let regret turn into self-hatred. Instead, turn it into a blessing. Try this. Place your hand over your heart. Close your eyes. Picture your younger self at the time you made that mistake. Then say, silently or aloud, "I see you. I know you were lost. I know you acted out of fear, or pain, or ignorance. But you are not forgotten. You are being guided home. May you be forgiven. May you grow. May you rest now." These words are not just comfort. They are energetic balm. They begin to rewire the karmic memory. They replace punishment with compassionate responsibility, and they prepare the soil for new life. Final reflection. The return is the freedom. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to undo every mistake. You only need to return to the truth, to your integrity, to the soft, honest voice within. That return is already the redemption, because the moment you stop running, karma stops chasing. You turn, you bow, you breathe, and you say to your life, "I'm here. I see now. Let's begin again." When the thief gives back, opening moment, he had broken into dozens of houses, stolen jewelry, money, even sacred statues. But on a rainy night, while trying to steal a woman's purse, he saw her fall. Hard. Instead of running, he stayed, held her head, covered her with his jacket, called for help. When the ambulance came, he disappeared. 2 years later, that woman, now a successful author, launched a charity for ex-convicts. And one of her first employees? The thief who gave back. She never recognized him. But he recognized her, and in his heart, he whispered, "This is how I return what I once took." The paradox of karma. Karma isn't always linear. We assume bad people equals bad outcomes, good people equals good rewards. But karma is more intricate, compassionate, and patient than we realize. Sometimes, the one who harmed you becomes your healer. The one you helped saves your life later. A cruel act from the past plants a seed of awakening. This is karmic reversal. When the current of past wrongs turns back into good through transformation, not erasure. When darkness becomes the door, In a Zen monastery in Japan, a former assassin became a monk. He never told anyone his past. He simply bowed deeper than the others, meditated longer, chanted softer. When asked why he was so devoted, he said, "Because I have a longer road to clean behind me. But that also means my steps forward are clearer." Years later, a young man entered the monastery, burning with rage and thoughts of revenge. The former assassin became his teacher. He showed him the way not with words, but with his calm, his stillness, his presence. Karma had not destroyed him. It had reshaped him into the very protector he never had. You don't know who you're saving. In life, you will. Help people who never say thank you. Forgive people who never apologize. Give to people who may not seem deserving. But sometimes, the good you give out returns through a stranger's hand. That is karma. Not keeping score, but keeping the flow. There are stories of monks who gave bread to beggars, and decades later were rescued by the same men, now drivers, doctors, or guards. One act, done with love, ripples across lifetimes, and one thief can one day give back more than they ever took. Why a sinner can plant the purest seed? It may seem strange, even unfair. Why would someone who lived in cruelty get to create powerful merit later? The answer is simple and profound. Because they know the weight of harm. And when a person truly transforms, they walk with a kind of fire. Not the fire of guilt, but the fire of urgency to serve, to restore, to protect. That's why, in many Buddhist stories, former thieves become great monks, former kings become wanderers, former enemies become lifesavers. They are not rewarded for their sins. They are liberated by the very depth of their repentance. The darker their cave, the brighter their lamp once lit. A story of redemption through giving. In Dongthap, a woman named Lien once sold stolen goods to survive. She admitted she'd harmed many people, especially the elderly and poor. But when her own daughter became sick and passed, something cracked inside her. She wandered into a small rural temple. The abbot didn't ask her to confess. He simply asked, "Would you like to offer a cup of tea to someone who has no one?" She said yes. That yes became weekly service, then daily cleaning, then quiet weeping at the altar, whispering, "May all the things I took return as blessings through my hands." Years later, she sold her house and opened a free kitchen. People asked why. She replied, "I can't erase what I did, but I can become someone who would never do it again." That is the heart of karmic reversal. Part V. Opening to goodness from unexpected places. Sometimes, the blessing you need comes from the person you least expected. The universe may send a former enemy to teach you compassion, a stranger on the street to restore your faith, a person who once lied to you to now speak truth that heals. Don't block kindness just because it wears the wrong face. Sometimes, the thief gives back. Sometimes, the liar tells you what no one else dared. This is not contradiction. It is karmic maturity. As one Zen master said, "The lotus does not grow from marble. It blooms from mud. So too does redemption, meditation, receiving goodness from the unexpected." Let's try something rare. A meditation not on giving, but on receiving, and not just from friends, but from unexpected places. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Let your breath slow down. Now, imagine someone from your past, someone you disliked, someone who wronged you, someone whose face still brings discomfort. Now imagine they are standing before you, but this time they are holding a gift. It may be words. It may be protection. It may be something simple like presence. Let yourself receive it. Notice any resistance. Then say softly to your own heart, "I allow goodness to reach me, even from hands I once feared. I allow the universe to bless me through every channel it chooses." Breathe. Soften. Let your heart open just one layer more. Final reflection. Don't block your blessing. Sometimes the blessing you need comes Not from a saint, but from a sinner who turned. Not from someone close, but from someone once lost. Not in the way you expected, but exactly when you're ready. Don't shut the door just because the knock sounds unfamiliar. Don't judge the messenger. If the message brings peace, let karma do what it does best. Surprise you with its intelligence. If you stay open to its grace, a simple prayer to end this chapter. Place your hand over your heart. Repeat, silently or aloud. I forgive the one who hurt me. I bless the one who changed. I release the image of who I thought they were. May I never reject love, simply because it came late or from a broken hand. This is how the thief gives back. This is how healing finds you. This is how karma completes its circle. Impermanence and liberation. Opening moment. The man had lived a virtuous life. He gave, he forgave, he practiced daily. But still one night, he knelt before his teacher and asked, "Master, I've followed every precept. Why do I still suffer?" The old monk smiled, "Because you're trying to solve the dream, but liberation is waking up. The ultimate truth, everything changes. In Buddhism, the most profound teaching is not karma, it's impermanence, anicca. Everything that arises will pass. Joy fades, pain softens, karma ripens and dissolves. Even identity is a flowing river, not a fixed rock. When you truly understand this, you stop clinging to good karma and stop fearing bad karma. You simply see. You live in the middle, not grasping, not resisting. And from that seeing, peace is born. When you let go of the story, we spend so much energy trying to clean our karma, fix every past mistake, perfect every future outcome. But true awakening is not about fixing the dream. It's about seeing that it was a dream all along, like a film you were caught inside until you walked out of the theater. This is why the Buddha did not just teach karma. He taught freedom from karma. When the mind no longer identifies with body, ego, roles or stories, karma continues, but you are no longer its prisoner. You are the sky, not the weather. The ocean, not the wave. Karma moves. You remain. A monk who laughed at death. There's a famous story of a Thai forest monk. When he was diagnosed with cancer, his disciples cried. He smiled and said, "You cry as if something permanent has cracked. But I was never permanent to begin with." As his final moment neared, someone asked, "Venerable, are you afraid?" He replied, "Afraid of what?" The flame returns to fire. The wave returns to sea. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going home. That is the peace born from seeing impermanence, not as tragedy, but as truth. Seeing impermanence is the end of suffering. The Buddha did not promise a life without hardship. He promised, "Where there is understanding, there is no bondage." When you see impermanence deeply, you stop trying to control life. You no longer fight the past because it's already gone. You no longer fear the future because it's not yet here. You no longer grip the present because it's already changing. This insight doesn't make you passive. It makes you light, like a leaf floating downstream, not resisting the flow, not drowned by it either. Meditation, letting go of karma. Let's try one final practice. Sit quietly, breathe gently. Now, picture your whole life. The good things you've done, the mistakes you've made, the people you've loved and lost, the karma you've received, the karma you've created. Hold it all in your heart. Then whisper, "I release all clinging. I am not my karma. I am not my past. I am not my future. I am the awareness that sees. I am the sky through which all clouds pass. I am free." Breathe. Smile not because everything is perfect, but because nothing needs to be. Final reflection, walking as a free being. You've traveled far, from learning about cause and effect, to facing your shadows, to healing, to giving, to returning. Now, you know the truth. Karma is real, but so is freedom, and both live within you. Walk with mindfulness, not because you fear the future, but because you love the present. Speak gently, not because you're afraid of punishment, but because you care for the echo. Act kindly, not to earn merit, but because it feels like home. And when storms come, as they will, remember, you are not the storm. You are the stillness that watches. You are the space beyond cause and effect. You are free. May all your past be understood, all your wounds be healed, all your karma be softened, and may you live the rest of your days with clarity, compassion, and quiet joy. Thank you for walking this path. You are now ready to walk your own.